The Giants' resurgence came just in time, and it feels like a major turning point in the 2025 season.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button right now, wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And coming up on today's show, the Giants stormed back just when it seemed like everything was going, majorly downhill in a very significant way, losing those two extremely difficult games to the Padres 1-0, stranding a bunch of base runners 3-2, allowing 2 runs in the ninth with 2 outs to tie. And they come storming back from a 5-run deficit in the third game of the series and end up splitting. The new guys, Johnson and Smith, make an instant impact in these 2 wins. And Bryce Eldridge, we're going to get a proper opportunity to discuss his promotion to AAA and what he's already doing there and how he could factor in the rest of the way. So getting, though, to this major shift in momentum in the season for the Giants, circled June 4th on the calendar because that was the game. The Giants had not scored more than 4 runs in a game since the 16th of May when they won 9-1 over the A's. That was when Wilmer Flores hit 3 home runs, including a grand slam. Never since did they score 4 until the 4th of June. And in that game, they were down 5-0. And so very little confidence, of course, that they were going to overcome that. It just felt like, okay, it's looking like a normal loss versus the other 2 games where they lost 1-0, like I said, and then it blew a 2-0 lead in the ninth, and then lost in extra innings. Both games losing in extra innings with the Padres scoring their automatic runner and the Giants not. But down 5-0, Giants chipped away. They got a run in the bottom of the 5th in this third game of the 4-game series, and they got 2. That was a 2-out double or triple by Patrick Bailey in the bottom of the 5th. So with 2 outs, Daniel Johnson singled to center. He stole second base, and then Patrick Bailey hit a blast into Triple's alley, and it put the Giants on the board. So there's a 2-out hit that scored a run. And like Kruko likes to say, it was an important run because it makes not just the Padres feel like you're out there, but it makes you as a team believe that you're out there and able to do something and that this game is not over. And so then in the bottom of the 6th, Jung-Hoo Lee hit a 1-out double, and then Wilmer Flores made an out. So it was, again, with 2 outs, Matt Chapman homers to left. And so then all of a sudden it's 5-3. And you're starting to believe. I mean, I know they hadn't scored more than 4 in a game in 15 games, which was the longest streak, I think, since 1965 for the Giants. Incredibly frustrating offensive streak. Like, that doesn't even really fully describe it. But then in the bottom of the 7th, this is when the floodgates finally opened. Willie Adames, who just continues to not hit, but he has done pretty well at drawing walks and working, taking pitches that are not strikes Pretty good job. There's not a lot positive to say, but that's one thing. And then Daniel Johnson again hit a single. So he just made a huge impact offensively in this game. And we'll get to what he did defensively as well. So it's first and second, nobody out. Patrick Bailey strikes out. And then Tyler Fitzgerald singled. It was a trap by Fernando Tatis Jr. in right. Almost caught it, but didn't. So it loaded the bases with one out. And as we've seen, we saw in the 1-0 loss, the bases loaded is not the Giants' friend all the time. And so the good news was it brought up Heliot Ramos, who's been one guy who has not been in a funk. I mean, he's just been hot, actually. And what does Heliot Ramos do with a tough righty, Jason Adam, on the mound? Well, pitch by pitch, he takes a slider off the plate for a ball. Second pitch, slider. Kruko called it a hanging slider. It was, I mean, you look at the location. It was at the bottom edge of the zone. I mean, it was low and in. But, low and in, you can kind of drop the head on it, and he sure did. 106 miles an hour down the left field line. And the biggest hit of the year for the Giants, I would venture to say, a 2-run double that tied the game. And just to see him fired up at second base, if you weren't able to watch this game, I would highly encourage you to watch that highlight because it'll fire you up. Heliot Ramos, I mean, not only did it tie this game that they were down 5-0 in, but it finally broke that streak. Those were runs 4 and 5. And so finally they had scored more than 4 runs in a game. Hopefully they weren't too focused on that, but I'm sure they were aware of it. It's not like they're celebrating that, but if it had been a 5-0 win or something, they're not going to celebrate scoring 5 runs, but it was just like all the frustration let out by Ramos in that moment and pent up anger almost in a way, like just getting released. And it was therapeutic, as Kruko also likes to say about certain moments. Like that was one of them. And then, so now it's second and third, the game is still tied and you've got a job to do to get that go-ahead run in, which is something they just have not been doing well here lately during this stretch. So it was Jung-Hoo Lee. They kind of had the right guys up there with Ramos and Lee, which is why you do want to stack your best hitters at the top of the lineup. They come up the most, and it was a good thing they came up then. And Jung-Hoo Lee, who does hit quite a few ground balls, though, infield in, gets a, deep enough sacrifice fly to center to score their 6th run of the game. And that would be the final score, 6-5. The bullpen shut it down with Sean Jelly kind of bridging the gap. He had just been called up pretty recently with, by the way, Jordan Hicks landing on the injured list with right great toe inflammation is what the Giants are calling it. But Sean Jelly pitched 2 2/3 scoreless to kind of bridge the gap while the Giants came back. And then Tyler Rogers scoreless 8th. And then Ryan Walker started the 9th, but gave up 2 hits and got an out. And then they took him out and brought in Randy Rodriguez in a dicey situation. Runners on first and second, they ended up double stealing. So it was second and third when all was said and done. But he struck out Jackson Merrill, who's really good and a left-handed hitter, on 3 sliders in a row. Strike, 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 swing, take, swing. Or maybe they were all swings, but at least 2 swings, great hitter. And he just got him on 3 pitches. And then Sheets, is it Gavin Sheets, who's just been a pain in the side of the Giants in this series. And he had a big hit to open the scoring in the first against Kyle Harrison, left on left. And so there he is against a righty. The double steal happened. A single. It was Sheets. Yes. A single would probably give the Padres the lead in that situation. But Randy Rodriguez got him to pop out. I think it was on the first or second pitch. So Randy Rodriguez, first career save. He's moved his way up the ladder, deservingly, very much deservedly so, because he's just been one of the best relievers in baseball, if not the best. I mean, he's been unbelievable. And I totally understand taking out Walker there. I'm glad that Bob Melvin did it and just brought in a guy who's been basically untouchable in Randy Rodriguez. So that was the game that turned the tide. I mean, it was just a huge win. But then they really had to go out and follow it up, I think, because otherwise you still lose 3 out of 4 if you don't win the next day. And it was a tough pitcher on the mound, Dylan Cease, but the Giants found a way to get it done. So we'll break down that game and just the impact these new players had. Also, there was a key defensive play I failed to mention in this first game, so we'll break that one down, and then we'll get into Bryce Eldridge, too, and his performance in AAA in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Trade Coffee. Let's be real. Coffee isn't just a drink. It's a ritual. It's a lifeline. It's that thing that gets me from half asleep to fully functioning. And if it's that essential, why settle for anything less than amazing? That's where Trade Coffee comes in. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S., delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters, whether you're into cold brew, pour over, or anything. They've got a roast that you'll love. I took Trade's quiz. It only took a minute, literally, and the first bag they sent me was so spot on that I have not had anything else since. It's called, and this is just for me, everybody's individualized. It's called Flores Bellas, and I've said this before. I wish I could deliver smell through the microphone. It smells so unbelievably good, tastes even better. So right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the new guys making a big impact. Daniel Johnson and Dominic Smith, both like essential in these 2 wins. Obviously, 2 games is not enough of a sample to draw major conclusions about them, but there's no doubt I don't think they win maybe either game without these guys. And so the moves, I said we would kind of wait and see to evaluate this DFAing Lamont Wade Jr. and Dominic Smith doesn't exactly have the greatest track record in the world, but boy, did these 2 guys deliver big hits and moments in these 2 wins for the Giants. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow's Saturday. Next Monday, this upcoming Monday, we'll be breaking down a big 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves, who come in with their tail between their legs after blowing a 10-4 lead in the 9th inning and getting swept by the D-backs. Just looked like they were on their way to a win in the finale there in Atlanta at home, and they blow a 10-4 9th inning lead and then come here to San Francisco. So big series for the Giants to keep them down while they're down, because the Braves are really underperforming, and that's a significant reason why the Giants are in a good wild card position, is because, I mean, if the Braves were playing up to expectations, that would just be one other team that would probably be occupying a wild card spot. But as it is now, the Giants are still in a playoff position. So keeping the Braves down is, if you can win 2 out of 3 or sweep, you could really separate yourselves from them. So that'll be huge. We'll break it down on Monday. So I failed to mention the catch that Daniel Johnson made in the 9th with Ryan Walker on the mound. Fernando Tatis led off, I think it was with a single, and then Luis Arraez came up and blasted one in a long at bat, I think it was, into the right center field gap. And it was just such a long run for Daniel Johnson, who started in right as a left-handed batter instead of Mike Yastrzemski. So it was definitely noteworthy that they called up a left-handed outfielder and he played in place of Mike Yastrzemski. Like, I know Yastrzemski's been really struggling lately, but his season numbers are, a little bit better than league average offensively. And so it was just certainly noteworthy that they chose not to start him, and the same was true the next day as well. But Daniel Johnson, I mean, he had such a long way to go for that ball. Yeah, Mike Yastrzemski's been in a deep slump, very deep, really for the last month plus. So anyway, I mean, just an unbelievable running catch by Johnson. If he doesn't catch that ball, if it doesn't bounce over the wall, it's certainly a tie game because Tatis was like standing on second. And if it doesn't bounce over the wall, it's probably a triple. So it would be game tied, runner on third, nobody out. And so to make that catch, I mean, unreal catch. And one thing we noted about Daniel Johnson when he was called up was that he has speed. Like, he has good speed, and we saw it, and he's relatively young. He's only 29. Mike Yastrzemski is almost 35. So speed is one of those things that declines for sure as you get older. And Johnson, I mean, it's kind of crazy if you look at the defensive metrics. He's already put up one out above average, one defensive run saved. It's not crazy, actually. Like, he literally did save a run there. So anyway, hats off to Daniel Johnson, who just made a big impact with those 2 hits, 2 runs scored, and then saving a run with the catch in the ninth. And then in the next game, like I said, I think it was important for them to not lose that finale, because then it takes that momentum you've kind of built right back away from you, and all of a sudden you don't feel like you gained anything much by winning that one game. You're like, okay, we still lost 3 out of 4. We're still having trouble scoring potentially. And it's true. They didn't score a bunch in the third game. The fourth game, they only got 3, but thankfully they had their pitching step up again, even though Robbie Ray allowed the first 2 runs of the game to score at the hands of the Padres, with Machado hitting his 350th career homer. Congratulations to him. Wish it was against somebody else, but yeah, so Ray gives up a 2-run homer, but he ends up going 7, just 4 hits allowed, 2 runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. So he absolutely, despite the homer, continued his Cy Young type of season. Cy Young, at least consideration, all-star consideration. He's got a 2.44 ERA. Logan Webb has a 2.55. So these two at the top, and they've thrown a combined like 150-something innings of about 2.5 runs per 9 innings. They've been a dynamic 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation. They've each made 13 starts. They've each thrown about 80 innings. So, yeah, I mean, just incredible performance this season from Robbie Ray, and it continued. And the offense answered back. That was what was so big, was that it wasn't like they put up a hit fest, a slug fest here. They did walk 4 times in the game. That was nice to see. They had 6 hits, and Daniel Johnson immediately moved to the leadoff spot. I thought that was a little hasty, but whatever. And Matt Chapman had 2 hits. Jung-Hoo Lee had a ball in the first inning that was just shellacked, but he got oracled, and it was just a ground rule double, even though he hit it like over 400 feet. Willie Adames 0 for 3. The struggles continue for him, and now he's batting under 200. OPS is 600. That's just, we try not to think too much about Willie Adames right now. But Dominic Smith, 3 hits in this game. 3 hits, including the big one. Giants had 6 hits in the game, and he had 3 of them, and it was the big one in the 3rd inning. So in that 3rd inning, the Giants, Daniel Johnson led off with a ground out. Heliot Ramos walked. I want to say it was a full count. Yeah. Ball, strike, ball. And Jung-Hoo Lee walked, also full count. Ball, strike, ball, foul, and then a ball. So, walks are as good as a hit a lot of the time. And then Matt Chapman singled to right, and then Adames hit a sacrifice fly, to his credit. He hit the ball pretty well to right, hit it 100 miles an hour, 350 feet, just a little bit high, but that's kind of what you want in that situation. Only down 2-0 to get the sac fly is plenty enough. And then Matt Chapman stole second base. And then so up comes Dominic Smith with runners on second and third and 2 outs. Again, 2 outs because that all their big hits, well, except Ramos's, that was with 1 out, but multiple of their big hits came with 2 outs in the previous game. And then in this game, the Dominic Smith at bat, it ended up being a 9-pitch at bat that started off 0-2 with 2 swinging strikes, like swing throughs on sliders. And then a ball, 2-2, foul, 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 and then a ball that actually clipped the zone. It's fair to point out, like if you had ABS, which actually we'll get into at some point, automatic ball strike system, it's almost certainly going to be here next year. So that's a whole topic I definitely want to get into. But that pitch did clip the zone, but it was called a ball. So the whole game definitely could have been different if that pitch was called correctly, even though it just barely clipped the zone. But then gets a slider that catches a little bit more of the plate. It was the pitch that caught the most of the plate in the whole at bat out of 9 pitches. And, it was down and away still. And Dominic Smith drove it to center field over the head of Jackson Merrill. And it was only hit 93.8 miles an hour. He just hit it kind of at the perfect launch angle. 28 degrees is kind of ideal. And it went 376 feet. I mean, that's like a no doubt homer if it's hit down the lines. So maybe the wind helped that one out. I'm not exactly sure. Didn't crush it. I mean, it's not even considered a hard hit ball unless it's 95 plus miles an hour, and this was 93.8. But I mean, that might, after Heliot Ramos's hit the previous day, that might be the next biggest hit of the year. That was just a huge hit for Dominic Smith and the start of a big day. I don't know if he had singled or gotten a hit in his first at bat. He did, leading off the second inning. So that was his second hit, ended up with 3. Randy Rodriguez pitched the 8th, and it was clean. 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, no runs, no hits. ERA now 0.64. All-star worthy himself. We'll see. Giants often get no respect when it comes to the All-Star game. Camilo Dval, a little bit shaky in the ninth. Things got interesting again. He did give up 2 hits. It's never easy. Giants ultimately struck out 12 and walked just 1 in this game. And the only runs were the 2 runs on the homer. And Dval got the save, and it was his 100th career save. So congratulations to Camilo Dval. It's been quite a career for him thus far. He's still like a young pitcher on this team. He's only 27 years old. He'll turn 28 July 4th. And not a free agent until after 2027, but that's just 2 more seasons after this year. So, Dval now has a 3.14 ERA, 3.13 fielding independent pitching in his career, and 100 saves. So it's a 29% career strikeout rate too. So it's just, he's a very good reliever. Some people have kind of misinterpreted my comments about how I think Randy Rodriguez should be the closer. It's no disrespect to Dval or Ryan Walker or Tyler Rogers. It's more about how unbelievably good Randy Rodriguez has been. Like, definitely one of the top relievers in baseball. Definitely. So anyway, those 2 wins, to split the series, I just think it's a major turning point in the season. Potentially, they could just fall apart again. But if they start playing better now, you can look back at these games as perhaps the turning of a tide when it seemed least likely, when they were down 5-0 in that game and hadn't scored 5 in over 2 weeks. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, we'll turn our attention to a young player who offers a lot of hope for the future, only 20 years old and already tearing it up in AAA, even though he just got there. We'll discuss in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs, the finals, are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you bet $5 and that $5 bet wins as a new customer, you will get $200 in bonus bets, and that adds just so much excitement and thrill to the game. I mean, $200 in bonus bets, and you can place that $5 bet on whatever you'd like. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, here we go. We're going to get into Bryce Eldridge being promoted to AAA. We haven't really properly had a chance to discuss the implications of this. And then his early performance, he's played in 2 games there and already made his presence felt in a big way. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers on Monday, we'll be breaking down the Giants and the Atlanta Braves. I think really a big series. From the Braves' perspective, they're going to feel like they're in a rough way right now, coming off that. They've had a tough season, and that was, I was watching that game, and they were like, this feels like, rock bottom. And so they're coming in desperate for some wins and to make up ground on the Giants, the third wildcard team. If you're a team below that's out of the playoff picture, you're looking at the Giants as the team that you want to face and beat, and that's who they're coming in to face. And so if the Giants can do the opposite and kick them while they're down, then could have a big impact on the playoff odds and the standings. So anyway, we'll be breaking all that down on Monday. And so getting to the fact, I just want to recap these moves were, it remains to be seen if Dominic Smith and Daniel Johnson and Andrew Kisner will make any kind of significant impact over a longer stretch. Like, you look back at the beginning of the year, Patrick Bailey had the big hit on opening day to tie the game in the 9th. And then it's been just a huge struggle for him offensively overall on the season. So just because Daniel Johnson had 2 hits in his first game, and just because Dominic Smith had 3 hits in the second game, and that both of those games were game winning for the Giants, it doesn't mean that in the long run in baseball that they're going to make a positive impact overall. But so far they have in a 2-game sample, one of them each. It's like Daniel Johnson didn't really do anything in the second game, and Dominic Smith didn't do much in the first game. But it's worth pointing out that Buster Posey shakes things up, and there were immediate results. We'll see if it continues, but I just want to point out that they did rally and win 2 games right after these moves were made. And so we'll see. But I do think in the long run, Dominic Smith has a track record of being roughly league average, a little bit below with the bat, below average against both righties and lefties. Hasn't swung and missed in a Giants uniform. Oh, at pitches in the zone. I already said he swung and missed through the first 2 sliders of that at bat. Never mind. Forget I said that. But Bryce Eldridge is definitely the long-term play at first base. And the fact that he was promoted to AAA at age 20, he will not turn 21 until late October. So unless the Giants are in the NL, it'll probably be during the championship series that Bryce Eldridge will turn 21. So that, just to think about that and how young he is, he's 6'7", 240 according to Fangraphs. And what did he do in AA to earn the call-up? Well, he hit 280 with a 350 on base, 512 slugging, about 50% better than the league average there at 20 years old. Most of the players are significantly older than that. He may even have been the youngest player there. I don't know. But now he's in AAA at 20 years old, and he's played 2 games. But he hit, I think it was a grand slam yesterday, and he drew a couple of walks and singled in his debut. And so in 2 games, he's already hitting .333, .444 on base, .833 slugging. Now, it's 2 games. It's noteworthy he's only struck out once and he's walked twice. I mean, so not looking overmatched to start his AAA career. And so if he just continues to hit well in AAA, I think defense is like more of a question. But if his bat proves that it's big league ready, like, and he has nothing else to prove in the minor leagues, you could definitely see a call up if the Giants continue to struggle to score, and or if first base continues to be an issue offensively. You could always play like Wilmer Flores or Dominic Smith or whoever at first base, and Bryce Eldridge could DH. The thing is, you don't want to just stop his development. Like, if you just have him, you don't want him to develop at the major league level defensively, because that means essentially you're costing yourself on defense for development's sake, which could be an issue and hurt his confidence potentially if he's costing the team games with his defense. But also, if you just have him DH, then he's not getting the opportunity to work on that defense. So they should be patient and wait until he appears more of a finished product defensively, at least makes strides to be okay. He's very tall, and apparently that's why he has some issues. He also used to be an outfielder and a pitcher, and so it's kind of, I guess, relatively a new position for him. But, I mean, so far so good with the offense, and just the fact that he's just down the road in Sacramento, I don't think they're home right now, but, figuratively speaking, is very exciting, and he's off to a good start. And there were quotes from Buster Posey I was going to read and I kind of forgot, but he said that Bryce Eldridge is, quote, eager to get better. He wants to be great at it, talking about defense. He still has a lot of work to do. That's a noteworthy quote there. He says, I think he knows that as well, but it's nice that he's moving in the right direction. And yeah, Posey talked about how they could upgrade. And then in terms of Bryce Eldridge, Shayna Rubin of the Chronicle says, if he shows he can hit at the next level, the Giants could desperately use his bat to jolt the offense alive. This was before their 2 wins. Posey said, I think all of these decisions and conversations are fluid. Things can change. For Bryce, it's best to get reps, but things change. So we'll continue to have conversations and watch his progress. So, yeah, that's the quote there. Things can change. Things change. So it basically means, like, don't think we know the answer about, he's not going to get called up because he needs to work on the defense. If they go through another really rough offensive stretch and he's just tearing the cover off the ball, they very well can make a move. So that is just exciting. And the guy offers the kind of power potential the Giants haven't had in a long time. They have not had someone hit 30 home runs since Barry Bonds in 2004. You're all well aware of that. This guy could definitely be that kind of player, and then some. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like the show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again on Monday. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.